When Hellboy first released in 1993 as part of a San Diego Comic-Con collection of mini-comics, the character's popularity led to author and artist Mike Mignola creating a mini-series in 1994 for Dark Horse Comics. Since then, Hellboy has expanded into multiple films and now a reboot, video games, and even multiple spin-off comics based on various characters from his world. With a brand new film starring David Harbour out this month, now seems like the perfect time to dive into the full comic book history of Hellboy. That said, there will be comic book spoilers ahead, so you have been warned. In Hellboy's first miniseries, Seed of Destruction, it's immediately established how Hellboy came upon Earth. In 1944, near the end of World War II, Hitler began desperately seeking occult measures in order to secure his victory in the war. Part of this included putting together a team of beastly and mythical beings as part of a special unit. This group happened to include a fictionalized version of the real-life historical figure, Grigory Rasputin, also known as the Mad Monk, who promised Hitler and the Third Reich a miracle that would secure a new order, Project Ragnarok. Planning to betray Hitler, Rasputin and his followers performed a ceremony off the coast of Scotland on Ptarmigan Island. This ceremony was intended to bring a devil to Earth who would have the Hand of Doom and whom Rasputin thought would follow him and help him end all of mankind. Instead, the devil who was summoned ended up at Bromwich Church in England, where the Allied forces, who'd gotten wind of Hitler's plans, were waiting. This devil-like being turned out to be a child, and realizing it was an innocent creature, one of the Allied forces, Professor Trevor Brudenhold, took him in and raised him as his own child. Due to his appearance, the professor dubbed him Hellboy on a whim, not intending this to become the creature's real name, but it stuck. Despite being raised by Professor Brudenhold in the army, they attempted to give him as normal of a childhood as possible. In one now notorious example amongst fans, he was forced to eat pancakes for breakfast, with all of demonkind freaking out over the fact that he finally had pancakes, and this is what won him over to the humans. This just in, further proof that pancakes are indeed better than waffles. Hellboy rapidly aged physically to adulthood, and having been raised by Brudenhold and the US Army, ended up joining a new division, the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. In 1952, Hellboy went out on his first mission, was successful, and the United Nations gave him the status of honorary human. And for the next 40-odd years, Hellboy would regularly go on investigations into the paranormal, becoming the primary agent for the BPRD. His encounters range wildly, but typically involve either a mythical creature from yore, some sort of classic horror monsters such as vampires, werewolves, or ghosts, aliens, demons, or on occasion, something more Lovecraftian. He's also developed an absolute hatred for Nazis, who also serve as regular antagonists in the stories to come. Hellboy isn't alone at the Bureau, and some of his major allies include Abe Sapien, an amphibian who was named after Abraham Lincoln, and Liz Sherman, a pyrokinetic who frequently leaves and rejoins the Bureau. At the end of Seed of Destruction, we learned Rasputin intends to use Hellboy in order to bring about the apocalypse and summon 7 sealed-away Lovecraftian-esque serpents/dragons who would bring about the end of the world. Don't worry, they'll come back later. As Hellboy and crew put a stop to this, it does finally bring Hellboy to wonder about his past and his origins, both of which he knows nothing of prior to being summoned to Earth. A little later in the series, Hellboy decides to quit the BPRD primarily to go on a journey of self-discovery, and in the island, Hellboy accidentally resurrects an ancient mystic who reveals to him the origins of life on both the Earth and cosmos. A number of ancient spirits known as the Watchers were birthed at the start of time and tasked with the observation over a newly formed Earth. One of the Watchers, a spirit named Anum, created the dragons, the Ogdru Jahad, out of fire and mud. Remember those mythological dragons Rasputin was trying to summon? Yeah, them. Which I'm doing my best to pronounce. The Ogdru Jahad gave birth to 369 of the first living creatures on Earth, dubbed Ogdru Hem. The Watchers were horrified by the Ogdru Hem and destroyed the lot of them before the original Watcher imprisoned the Ogdru Jahad in golden cocoons with the power of the right hand of Doom. Out of fear, the other Watchers turned against him and tore him to pieces. However, the right hand of Doom survived. The arm Hellboy has attached to him, an arm that can re-summon these beasts out of their imprisonment. This destiny of his arm and the resummoning of the Ogdru Jihad is a regular issue brought up throughout the comics, and often we see Hellboy struggling against other beings who are trying to will the Ogdru Jihad back into existence, or are being manipulated into this. As Hellboy searches for answers, he learns that along with his arm, he has other important ancestry. Hellboy was actually born to the human witch Sarah Hughes and a Duke of Hell named Azil, making him a half-demon. But wait, there's more. Sarah herself traces her lineage all the way back to King Arthur, which means Hellboy is actually one of Arthur's last living descendants. Azil granted Sarah his powers, but at the cost of her soul. He used her life force to conceive a child. This child, who will later be known as Hellboy, was originally named Anu-Unrama, or, and upon his brow is set a crown of flame. After he was born, Azil cut off Hellboy's arm and grafted onto it the right hand of Doom, in a bid to make his son a key player in the apocalypse.
Fatherly love.
Hellboy's heritage led to a number of major revelations that would go hand in hand with his destiny.
No pun intended.
In Box Full of Evil, we discover Hellboy has always carried with him the crown of the apocalypse, indicating his birthright and reserved seat in his father's demonic kingdom, the House of Fly. Not only that, but due to his mother's lineage, he's the last living heir of Arthur Pendragon, and therefore the rightful king of England, and thus able to wield Excalibur. Due to his demonic heritage, Hellboy is extremely powerful, resilient, and heals from major wounds quickly. He's been seen dropping out of an airplane and crashing into a building with very little injury to his personal self. Hellboy is regularly shot at and crushed by gigantic beings, and is able to survive all of this. This doesn't mean he's invincible, as he's been brought close to death on several occasions, only barely surviving many of the situations he's put in. Hellboy's overall strength isn't quite known and its limits aren't clear, but he has picked up trees and thrown them at enemies and regularly grapples with massive beings, with his punches being strong enough to injure them. On top of that, his right-handed Doom is far more durable than his normal body, and powerful. He's able to use it both to defend against life-sucking amphibians and to wail on enemies. While he's a terrible shot with the gun, Hellboy usually carries modern weapons on him, including an aforementioned gun and grenades. He also carries with him various holy relics, as he's discovered throughout his years of paranormal research these can come quite in handy. Hellboy's aging process is completely different from that of a human, with his youth being relatively quick and his physical peak lasting for years upon years. 2019 marks the third film adaptation of Hellboy. The first two were adapted by Guillermo del Toro and starred Ron Perlman as the titular Hellboy. The first of these films was loosely based off of the first Hellboy arc, Seed of Destruction, however had many creative liberties, which both Guillermo del Toro and Mike Mignola agreed would be for the best. The second Guillermo del Toro adaptation, The Golden Army, was an entirely original story made for film. The 2019 film, while drawing inspiration off of a mix of various Hellboy arcs, including The Wild Hunt, Darkness Calls, and The Storm and the Fury, was also made to be its own unique story.
And there you have a brief comic book history of Hellboy. While his origins are a bit of a spoiler, I try to avoid all the major arcs and tales as Hellboy fights against his destiny. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you haven't read these comics, I highly recommend them. So get on it! Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Proving once again that pancakes are better than waffles. That's gonna be the most controversial part of the video, that right there.